Welcome to Love Fitness Studios podcast, live from Manchester, UK, speaking to entrepreneurs in the fitness, health and well-being industry, sharing stories about the real-life challenges and hustle. Now, over to your host, Nick Phillips.
Okay, welcome to Love Fitness Studios podcast number 15. Today I've got Adam from A-Train
Coaching.
A-Train Coaching. How's it going, Adam?
Yeah, it's going good.
Yeah, brilliant. So tell me a little bit. I always like to go right back to the beginning. How was Adam as a child? How was Adam at school, academic-wise? So take me back, Adam.
Well, I went to 3 different primary schools. So, I didn't really get the opportunity to, settle with a group of friends. So, it was quite tough, actually. So I was actually bullied quite a lot through school. And so that kind of took me into fitness a bit later on in life. But, I started martial arts because I was, primarily bullied. But, I used to love things like the Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles. And that was another reason why I wanted to get into the martial arts world. And so I just, moving around a lot. I have a brother who is 1 year younger than me. Mm-hmm. So me and him kind of pretty much lived a very similar life. So we had to move schools quite a lot because for a short period of time, we were homeless.
Wow.
So,
For what reason? How come?
Well, I won't go too much into it, but my dad was an alcoholic and a gambler, and so he was the primary worker, and couldn't afford to make the repayments, and so we lost the house.
Shit.
So I had to live with my mum in her grandma's house, and so unfortunately we couldn't stick to that school because didn't have a car, had nowhere to drive. Wow. So it was a little bit tough growing up.
Wow. And the bullies were just I don't know how to describe them. Like I was never bullied, but I could imagine it's just a horrible time in your life.
Yeah, I guess people just want to find a joke, and they want to have a laugh, and it's always at someone else's expense, and so you have to sometimes. It's made me realize, nothing's ever personal, and so I have that approach even to today. I don't take anything personally because sometimes you have to realize it's not about you. It's more for someone else's own entertainment, and so I don't very much have an outlook of why is this happening to me. It's more a case of what's happened to you for you to want to do that.
Such a good way of putting it, though, isn't it? I think that's what it all bottoms down to. Did you think like that though when it was happening?
No, of course
it
not.
took years to
but I never really let it bother me. I was very good at sort of just shaking it off. I had a bit of a tough skin.
Did you?
Yeah.
So what was school like for you then? Obviously it was difficult moving around. What were you like in school? Was you academic? Did you?
No, I was I was quite shy, I guess. I was a little bit of a teacher's pet. Mm-hmm. I was probably closer with teachers than I were with kids, and because they were a lot nicer to me, and in primary school anyway. And so I didn't really have a set group of friends, and so going into high school, I kind of thought, oh, it's a fresh start. But again, I didn't really find that click, and so every year or every couple of months I would find a new circle to mix with, and every group was very different to me, I guess. I never really found a group of people that I fit in with until the later years of my school life.
I can't imagine that, because that must be tough. Like your childhood is supposed to be the years where you have the most fun in it and the best experiences, but that must have been really...
I don't see it as really tough because I guess when you meet other people, you realize that other people have it tougher. So it is what it is. You don't really choose what you are brought up with. You get what you're given, and so I'm thankful for most of. I always had a roof under my house, even though our family was homeless. I always had a house. I always had food on the plate, and some people don't have that opportunity. So
such a nice way of putting it, though, isn't it? Strong-minded.
Yeah.
So what was the first martial arts you got into? So you what age did you get into it, and then what was your first
it was around 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah.
This guy knocked on our door, and I knew a few people from school were talking about these karate lessons. And so this guy had knocked on my door, and he was offering karate lessons just at the local school. And so I begged my mum to let me go, and she was very skeptical. She was like, "Who's this guy? No one just knocks on the door offering karate lessons."
Yeah.
And so I convinced her that people at my school go, and I was literally like nearly crying. I was like, I want to go. And so me and my brother both started, and my mum let me go, and it was just across the road from the house. So me and him just walked over, did a few lessons, and I fell in love. And he didn't. So he did about a month's worth, and then he stopped, and I went every single week. And I didn't stop.
What did you love about it? Was it the discipline, or was it just the training, or?
I guess part of me liked the idea of, because I wasn't very sporty as a child. So, I was always the kid who was I would be last to be picked for a sport. So, I wasn't that kid who people would look at and go, I want him on my team because he's athletic. It was the complete opposite, actually. It's like, who's going to pick Adam?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and still to this day, some sports I just can't do. Football being one of them.
Is it?
I can't kick a ball.
I don't know.
But yeah, so I did it, and it was the first time I actually felt I had a passion, and so I was like, this is something I want to stick with. And I wasn't very good. I wasn't very athletic, but I stuck with it, and I got better and better and better.
Yeah, brilliant. It's discipline as well, though, isn't it? It's sticking that discipline. So go on. So how long did you do karate for? What sort of level did you get to?
So I did it for, was it 5 or 6 years?
With the same guy?
Yeah, with the same instructor, and I had great experience. He really took me under his wing, and he taught me how to do classes as well. So I was teaching under him as well. So he would take me to different clubs and different classes, and sometimes he would let me lead the warm up and whatnot. And so there's only so much you can learn from training yourself, and you can learn a lot more from training other people. Definitely. And this is kind of like what led me into my career of today. And so that was fantastic. And then I had a few setbacks, just in life, and I don't think I was performing as well as I should have. And there was a point where I was going for a more of a higher belt. So I was going for just a couple away from black, and in front of everyone, there was a grading, and everyone was getting their certificates, and 2 names didn't get called out that day, and one of them was my name, and so I didn't get my belt. And
which belt were you going for?
I was going for my brown belt.
So it's quite high up.
Yeah. Just a few away from black, and and my name didn't get called out, and I think I must have been about 14 or 15 years old. I reckon probably 14. And so to see everyone around you, people who you've trained with for 3-4 years, to receive their belts, and everyone's dead happy. And me and this one other guy, our names never got called up. And so it was quite disturbing, like.
For what reason? Was it we hit the grade?
Apparently we didn't. And so, fair play. If we're not good enough, don't give us a belt. But why allow us to go through that process? Why not tell us beforehand you're not ready?
Right. Wow.
And so, that hit me quite hard, and I was very emotional that day, I remember, and I cried, and I actually thought, should I quit, because I felt embarrassed, he kind of embarrassed me in front of everyone, and but I didn't quit. I actually doubled my training because I didn't like the idea of being defeated, and then the following grading, I actually got 2 belts, because I was just as good as the people who were going better than me. But that could have easily broke me, as a young child.
Definitely, 100%. Was there anything there from you? Are they masters, senseis? What they call
senseis?
So was there anything there after you had that disappointing news? Did they put their arm around you or anything like that? Or was it just like, better luck next time?
No, like he was like, you just didn't make the cut. He was a little bit sentimental, but probably not enough of what I needed. My family they never really come to watch me compete or train or anything. So it was one of those where I get the money and I would go and train, and and I was all on my own. So my family kind of became the people around me, not so much people coming to support me. So I was kind of, for most of it, my own support.
Wow. Back to your dad, was he still drinking at that stage? Was he still...
He's all his life.
Has he?
Yeah.
Still to the day?
Probably, I don't know.
Do you not speak to him?
No.
Yeah, well, yeah. Same story with my dad. Literally left us at the age of 3, never seen him again. Do you know what I mean? Don't know where he is, but yeah, it's crazy how life happens. So what was next after that? So you smashed it then, brown belt you got, black belt, went all the way up the ranks.
I didn't make it to black belt.
Did you not?
No, I didn't.
So how does it work with karate? Is it 3 dans for the brown?
There's 3 brown belts.
3 belts.
So it's like brown, and then there's brown tag, which is a brown with a stripe. It's just a bit of duct tape around it.
Right.
And then another piece of duct tape. So there's 3 brown stripes, and then you're allowed to go for your black.
Right.
And so I got to my last brown tag just before black.
Yeah, which is a high level.
Yeah.
I think I only got to orange, so yeah, fair play.
Yeah, and then life happened. I think I just turned 18 at this point, and learned alcohol, drinking and whatnot, and I wanted to go out with my friends and stuff, and my dad wasn't a fan, and was basically like, you're not allowed to live this life, and was like, if you want to live this life, off you go, and basically kicked me out of the house.
Shit.
So 18-year-old on a minimum wage job.
What was you doing for work wise?
I was working at Sports Direct.
Was you? Yeah.
Yeah.
In the store.
Yeah, making £3.60 an hour.
Yeah.
Which was, so I must have been younger than 18 because that wasn't minimum wage at the time. I think I must have been 17.
Wow.
The £3.60, which is nothing, peanuts.
Yeah.
So got kicked out. I went to go live with a friend. Lasted about a week or 2 weeks, and I had my mum ringing every single day, like begging me to come home. And so I don't want to upset my mum, so I went home.
Yeah. It's young that, innit, to have to go through that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I ended up quitting karate because life just took its toll.
Did it?
Yeah.
So age of 17, what was next for you then?
Well, 3 months later, this guy comes into Sports Direct and was asking for some pair of running trainers, and he said he was a kickboxer and he had his own kickboxing school. So it's kind of like fate was telling me,
Same with the door. Yeah. Same with the karate.
Yeah. It was kind of coming at me that you're not ready to quit. So I told this guy, I'm looking for a new sport, and so he took my number down, texted me the address, and I went down and I absolutely fell in love. And he must have seen something in me because he took me under his wing and did a lot of private sessions with me, and we did for the first year. It was only a small club at the time, and he goes, I tell you what, he goes, you do really well on the British circuit in kickboxing.
Amazing.
And he goes, how about me and you just travel all around the country and compete in every tournament and figure out what's the good ones and what's not, because it's been a long time for him as well.
Wow. So anyone that doesn't know the difference, we've had a professional Thai boxer on the channel. What is kickboxing? Obviously, the clue is in the name, but what are you allowed to do in kickboxing?
So mine's not Thai boxing. The difference between Thai boxing and mine, which is freestyle kickboxing, is in Thai they use elbows and knees, and so it's more known as the blood sport. And mine is freestyle kickboxing. So think taekwondo mixed with sport karate. So it's point based. So when you're fighting someone, all hand techniques that land waist upwards are 1 point if it's clean to the front of the body. A kick to the body, depending on the organization, is either 1 point or 2 points. Mm-hmm. And a kick to the head, depending on organization, is 2 points or 3 points. And then a jumping technique is an added point.
Is it? So it's all points, yeah?
Yeah. And so
where did it originate, kickboxing?
I don't actually
know.
know.
Is it? So it's from that same Asian sort.
It's very sport karate based.
Is it?
Yeah.
More brutal than karate?
Yeah, because it is first to score a point. Think about it. You've got two people with some absolute speed behind them. Can you imagine? They don't want to be hit because as soon as they get hit, the other person scores a point, but at the same time they want to score that point. So can you imagine two people at full speed colliding into each other? It's sometimes worse than full contact fighting. At full contact fighting, you probably, you're prepared for someone standing close to you, whereas two people from a far distance with some extreme speed and power coming at colliding force, you get some serious knockouts.
Wow. How did you find that transition from karate to kickboxing? How did that?
It was hard because in karate I was taught to stand very square on, in more of a full contact position, but in kickboxing, my coach, because it's more of a tag sport, he taught me, if we were playing tag with each other, just shoulders and knees. If I'm square, 4 shoulders are available. 2 shoulders and 2 knees. Yeah. Whereas if I'm sideways, you can only reach 1 and 1. Yeah. And so my style of training went from being square to actually being more lateral.
Wow. So you had to really reinvent the way you fight.
Yeah.
So training wise, different?
Completely
different. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. More conditioning work?
Oh, a hell of a lot more. Yeah. And there was no, in karate, because it is a very traditional way of training, it's hard floor, karate gis, very strict. Yeah. And in the kickboxing, in a sense, you kind of wear what you want, music blaring, you go at it, and, you all motivate each other, and, it's a bit like going to the gym, I guess.
Is it? You found your passion from that?
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. So, did you have any fights then? How did it go?
I did at first. I wasn't very good though.
Right.
So I found myself in competitions, and I didn't do very well to begin with. And I did what's known as kata, which comes from karate. And you learn these patterns of movements, which are combinations put together to equal, I guess, a routine. So they did those in competitions as well. I guess it's like a gymnastics routine. You do your routine, someone holds up a score, and whoever's got the high score at the end is the winner. And so my coach was fighting at all the events, and I was doing kata, and I was trying to fight as well. Right. I wanted to be this guy who could do a bit of both. I wasn't very good at the fighting side for a long time.
What, just the getting hit, or just the...
Just adapting to the style, because some of these people were phenomenal kickers, and they could kick really high and really well, and
from a young age.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess not being that talented as a young kid, I had to learn something new. I did pick it up, and I ended up competing to a European level, and I got a bronze medal. So the fighting side did improve massively, and I got a lot of championship titles in kata as well. So I won a lot of them actually, and so I had a good balance, but I was better at kata than I was at fighting.
Was you? Did you ever get knocked out in the...
No.
No, did you not?
No.
I take my hat off to anyone who gets in the ring though. I mean, it's I've done a couple of white collars, and it's nerve wracking. Do you know what I mean? It's not a nice place. It's a lonely place in that ring. But yeah,
everyone's got a plan till they get hit, right?
Mike Tyson. So what was next then? So I'm loving this. So you successful with the karate, went all the way up to just before the black. You did really well with your kickboxing. What was next?
Well, I was at college while I was doing this. And
what was you studying?
First 2 years I was studying media.
Okay.
And but I guess I was doing it because my friends were doing it, not because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then I kind of thought, why am I doing this? Because it's not something I want a career in. And going back to my very first martial art, my instructor's instructor, who lives in Australia, he came over for a seminar a few times, and I absolutely idolized him. He was an acupuncturist, so he was his specialism was Chinese medicine, but he was doing a Japanese martial art. So very contradicting, but at the same time, his knowledge was insane because he had a balance of being very open to the idea of both. And it just made me, want something that was collaborative to what I was doing. And so I thought, what road can I go down? And so I chose personal training. So I dropped the course I was doing at college, and I started my level 2 in college, and so I got my level 2 gym instructor qualification in college, and then I finished that in a year's time, and then I was like, I want to work in a gym, but I needed a bit more, so I paid privately for my full personal training qualification. And
who did you do that with?
The training room.
Oh yeah.
So I did that about like 11, 12 years ago. A long time ago. And I got a little bit arrogant and a little bit cocky, thinking, I knew what I was doing. I was the dog's bollocks.
I think everyone does though.
Yeah, and I was quite young still, and it was reflecting in my martial arts as well. And people were starting to tell me, Adam, you're getting a bit big for your boots. And I can't remember what happened, but something happened which made me realise I wasn't as knowledgeable as I thought I was, and it was a slap back to reality, and that's what kind of taught me that you don't know it all, and you can always learn from absolutely anyone, even people who know less than you. Everyone's got a different experience, and it was very humbling. I wish I remember what the experience was, but I just remember I didn't want to be known as this arrogant person, and and then I realised I had to go learn from everyone.
Nice. Was you working in a gym then? Did you?
I applied for a job at David Lloyd.
Which one?
I can't remember.
You?
I had to go to Bolton for the interview, I travelled all the way to Bolton, and there was like 40 people in the interview. And we got split into groups of 4, and they basically picked one person from each group of 4, and it wasn't me. And that was a bit soul destroying. And then I applied for a job at Virgin Active, and I had to go to the Bolton Virgin Active, and I was like, here we go again.
I didn't know they had one in Bolton.
And
Virgin Active Bolton,
and so there was about 6 fitness managers and 4 personal training managers and the regional manager there, and there was about 50 people there for the interview. And I knew a few of the sites were looking for trainers, and one of the locations was where I did my personal training course, which was at a Virgin Active. And I thought to myself, I know where I went wrong last time, and they're not necessarily looking for knowledge, they're looking for personality.
Billion%. Billion%.
And they had this little teddy, and they were throwing it around, and so you were only allowed to talk if you were holding the teddy. And so I purposely made it my mission when that teddy was in my hands to make people laugh. And I did, and come to the end of the interview, and I wanted to work at the Didsbury site. That was the dream location for me, because it was right opposite the high school that I went to, and I applied for a job there, and I really wanted that one, and it was 5 minutes from my house, and so I got a job offer to work there, and so I had to go for it was quite funny. I went for a trial shift. I had to go for an interview there, which I did, and then I had to go for a trial shift, and they wanted to see me interacting with people on the gym floor. So I went onto the gym floor, and I saw these 3 massive guys training together, and I was like, I'm going to go to them first.
Bodybuilder style,
huge. And so I approached these 3 guys, and they were just big teddy bears. I
love that.
I just remember saying, look, I'm being watched by the managers. I was like, I'm on a trial shift, and they were just so nice to me, and so it was quite welcoming.
I think that's, what, you've done some amazing golden nuggets there. For any young person, I've been in the game 15 years as a trainer, and that's took me back. I worked for David Lloyd in Kensington in London, so I worked for them, and I remember the difference. It must have been 40 guys in there, we're all sat in a room around a big table, and the one thing that I wanted to do in that room was make everyone laugh. Because everyone else was standing up going, I'm qualified in this, I'm polyquin in this, and I just started the Northern, I just made people laugh, and it was just like, you make that connection, don't you? So the little golden nugget there is, any personal trainers that want to go through the ranks and go into interviews, relax, they're looking for you, they're not looking for the scientific behind you, you know what I mean? They're looking for that, how you're going to connect with people, and that's I think that is the key to a good personal trainer.
Yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, there's no difference between like me and you. We could help someone both achieve the same goal. The difference being is, do they want to be around that person as well?
Yeah, 100%. And the bottom line is, it is a sale. You are going into a sales industry, and if the person you are trying to sell to, you've not got that rapport, you've not got that connection straight away, you're fighting a losing battle, aren't you?
Yeah.
You find. So did you get the job?
I did.
Yeah.
So I got the job, and I was there for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then my
What did you learn from that? What was like the biggest thing you learned from working for Virgin Active?
Well, I wasn't a personal trainer to begin with. I was a gym instructor.
Yeah.
And
And that's the best way of doing it. To anyone else, like, you need to learn your ropes. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, I just spent a lot of time. I'm a very observational person, so I would watch people train. I'd look at the other trainers, and I'd spend as much time around them just trying to learn what they knew. And so, I always made sure I was educating myself and learning what they knew, because I really looked up to these people, because I had to wear a red top as a gym instructor and they had black tops. And so, I kind of saw them as more elite than I was. Even though I had the same qualification, they were actually doing the job.
How many trainers were there? Can you remember?
15.
15, yeah.
Yeah. It's quite a big club. And so I spent a lot of time just learning from these people, and I built quite good relationships with the trainers. Some of them I still talk to today. And then the manager left, and he got a job somewhere else, and a new one came in, and we didn't get on at all. I had a very set way of how my shifts worked, and it worked with my kickboxing. And then I thought I was now ready to be a personal trainer, and I said, "Can I be a personal trainer?" And she said, "No, you're not ready." And I just felt like I've been there for 2 years, and I've seen people who've been there less than me, become trainers around me, and I just thought, why am I being held back?
Why do you think that was?
I was working morning shifts, and they wanted someone who would work mornings and evenings. And I get it now, because I was only working mornings. I thought I could be a successful trainer only working mornings, and it doesn't work like that. You have to put in a lot of time and a lot of graft. But I thought, I work mornings, I'm gonna stick to mornings, and I'll be successful. And I was refused to be a personal trainer, so I was just sick of it at this point. I'd been refused so many times, and I felt unappreciated in the job as well. And so I left. I bought a one-way ticket to Australia, and I went to Australia and lived there.
Wow. That's not like just moving to Liverpool or something.
No, yeah.
Why Australia?
I had heard a few of the trainers who was working with us say that they had done it, and I never went to university, so I felt like, I needed some form of experience, and so, I just wanted to go somewhere, anywhere, just to learn and live.
Whereabouts in Australia?
I started in Brisbane.
Wow.
And the reason why I started in Brisbane was because at the back end of this story, my instructor's instructor lived in Brisbane.
Right.
So I went there. I remember landing, and I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a job. I just had a hostel booked for a week.
That is brave. So what did you take with you? What was in your suitcase?
Just 2 pairs of jeans, a few pairs of shorts, toothbrush, a pair of joggers.
That's brave.
Yeah.
Any money? Any cash?
I had about £900 in the bank account. That was it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of knew I had to get there and get a job straight away. So I landed, and there was this job company in the hostel, and so I said, "Look, I need a job." And there was a bar underneath the hostel I was working in, and so I went down there and said, "Look, I need a job," and they were like, "We haven't got anything right now." But then the bar company, the job company upstairs, "Oh, there's some farm work available in 7 days' time." I was like, "All right, sweet." And so I took it on, and it was actually the biggest farm in Australia, and it's actually the 3rd biggest farm in the world.
Wow.
And it's a cotton farm, and the graft was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Honestly, we were pulling weeds out of the stations which get flooded with water, which end up feeding the cotton plants, because there were some plants in there of cotton. And so what happens is that can contaminate the water, which can ultimately just destroy a whole field of cotton. and so we had to pull them all out so that those plants didn't poison the water, basically.
Wow, how long did you do that for?
That was a 10-day job.
Yeah.
And we were in the middle of nowhere. It was a 10-hour drive from the city into the middle of nowhere. And, I've never been in a car for 10 hours in my life.
Was you thinking, have I made the right decision doing this?
No, I'm a sort of person, go with the flow.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen? There was no reception on my phone. There was no TV. The food was very limited. We got paid for the work and accommodation, and food was free. But the 10 days were up and I was battered, and there's only 2 other people who could speak English with me.
That sounds like a prison sentence.
It was brutal, it really was. So that kept me ticking over. So when I got back to the city 10 days later, I was like, all right, I've got a bit of money to keep me going.
Yeah.
And then I went down to the bar that evening. I just felt like I needed a drink. And the guy who I approached about a job, he goes, "Hey, I see you back." He goes, "Do you still want a job?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And so he gave me a trial shift that next day, and yeah, he hired me. And
Really? Behind the bar?
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so that was kind of the start of me living in Brisbane, and I stayed there for 9 months. And I went occasionally to my old karate instructor's dojo, and I went and trained with him.
Yeah.
Very welcoming, and he remembered me and everything, but he remembers me as a kid, not so much as an adult. And yeah, he took me under his wing a bit, and was teaching me karate as it is over there. And their kids were going to a competition, and they're not very much in the competition space over there. And so the instructor at the time said, "Adam, will you come and help me just coach some of the kids in the competition?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I went to this competition, and he opened his boot, and he pulled out this adult-sized karate kit, and I was like, "Oh, are you competing today?" And he was like, "No, I've entered you." And I was like, I've not been training. I'm not prepared. I don't even know the rules for karate because I haven't done it for so many years.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Just hit him."
Just hit him.
He goes, "Just hit him and just pull your hand back on every strike." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And and there was a guy from Canada there. It was a Japanese. It was called the JKA Australian National Championship. So it wasn't a small competition. It was the nationals. And I was like, "Oh, I don't have a clue what I'm doing," but I know kata, so I was like, I'll do that. And there was this kid who had just turned 18, and everyone was raving about him. They were like, he won everything as a junior, and he's just stepping up into adults.
Yeah.
And everyone just kept talking about him. I think his name was Jesse, and literally everyone was raving about him. And so I did kata, and I came out with a gold medal, and he was second behind me, and everyone was like, "Who's this guy?" And then it was time to fight in the kumite divisions, which is sparring basically, and everyone was talking about how fast this Jesse kid was. And luckily, in the kickboxing world, people are very fast over there. And so I was like, okay, and I had to fight a few people prior, and I kept having to time out because I couldn't catch my breath. Right. And people thought I was winded, but I was just so unfit at the time. I just couldn't breathe. Yeah. And anyway, I made it to the final, and in the final I was against this Jesse kid, and everyone was like, "Oh, watch out for his legs, he's dead fast." Yeah. And coming from that Taekwondo kickboxing club, I was like, this kid's legs might be fast, but I've trained with people and competed with people who are a lot faster. And I guess Australia's so big, they don't really get to compete with people around the world because it's so far away from the world. So they only really compete with people in Australia. Yeah. So not to knock them, they just didn't have that worldwide experience that I had. And anyway, the person said fight, and the first thing that happened was I went to kick him in his stomach, and he put his hands in front of his stomach, and I knew he was going to do that, so I actually retracted my kick and I kicked him in the head, and I instantly got 2 points, and everyone was like, and it wasn't that I was faster than him, I just had more experience than him, and I literally couldn't catch my breath because I was so breathless and unfit at the time. And just me being out of breath, the timer was just ticking because I kept running away from this kid because I couldn't breathe. And and I ended up winning the fight, and yeah, that was an interesting experience. So I have 2 Australian national titles behind me.
That is incredible. That is incredible. It reminds me of seeing a Cobra Kai. Have you been
Yeah,
watching it?
yeah.
I was just picturing it as we were talking.
Yeah, I wasn't very good, but it was a fun experience, and all the kids, you know, had seen this international coach, you know, or they were all looking up to me because they, you know, had been doing a bit of training with me, and they were like, wow, you know, he's actually got him 2 goats, and so I like to think it was a bit inspiring for him as well.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So what was next then? So you did that. You said you stayed there for 9 months.
Yeah, and then I went to Sydney for a few days.
How's that?
Yeah, it's huge, absolutely huge. I was only there for 5 days, and then I wanted my 2nd year visa, which to do so you need to work on a farm for 3 months, and I'd only done.
Got to be a farm.
Yeah, it has to be rural work,
Right.
so just something to improve the country's environment.
Yeah.
So you know, it can be a numerous amount of different things. But I went to a farm in Tasmania, which wasn't a real farm. It was an Airbnb, but they had a farm on the land, and so. You know, I was just basically making beds and whatnot and faking it.
To get your visa?
yeah. And so I did that for 3 months.
I found a loophole.
Yeah. And I wasn't paid for the work. It was what's known as woofing, which is... Woofing. So
okay.
it's WOOF-ing. And basically you work on a farm and they'll provide you with a bed and food, but you won't get paid in return, so it's volunteer work.
You see a lot of English doing similar sort of, is there?
Tons of people.
Is there? So you meet other...
Yeah, I found the best thing about going on my own was, but when you do an experience, you're going to find more people who are doing what you're doing.
Definitely.
And so...
Best life experience in the world,
Yeah, definitely. And so I found so many people who... I met in 2s, and they just felt, and some people split up over there, and they said it was the best thing that ever happened because they found by being in 2 they stuck to each other, and you know,
networking.
Yeah, exactly. So go on your own, and you'll go and meet people just like you as well.
I did a similar thing, but with London. So I moved to London when I got qualified as a trainer. I just moved to London because I knew personal training wasn't that big 15 years ago in Manchester. There was only 1 or 2 gyms that was about, so I thought I need to be in London. And I did the same. I went with my friend Faddy. We both went for the job. He didn't get the job. He moved back to Sheffield, and I did it. And that was the best thing. Do you know what I mean? Going into a pub when you don't know anyone, you've got to make friends. Do you know what I mean? It does. It makes you come out of your shell. It makes you challenge yourself as a young adult as well. Like I say, I've got 2 small boys, and I'm definitely going to be saying, go and explore. Do you know what I mean? Go out your comfort zones.
It's definitely something that people need to do. You know, people go to university or they travel, but you know, you need that life experience. And when I came back home, people said I was a completely different person. And I won't lie, I was just, you know, partying, working, making ends meet, going from one city to the next. You know, just survival skills, but it matured me as a person, and it changed the way I looked at things, because, you know, even though everyone speaks English over there, the culture is completely different, and so, you know, you learn a thing or 2 about yourself.
Yeah. Nice. I think that's it. You've got to make your bed. You've got to do your washing. You've got to learn how to survive, haven't you? No, that's interesting. I used to work with a lot of Aussies, and they're brilliant. Great. The girls especially, they're great fun, aren't they? A nice crowd. So what did you do after that when you come back to Manchester?
I didn't know if I wanted to go back into a gym straight away, because I hadn't worked in a gym for over a year now, and so I got a job in a bar, in 2 bars actually. So I was working 2 bars and pretty much 7 days a week.
So you work weekends?
Yeah, I was working every day.
Would you drink while you were in the bar, or was it more?
Not so much, because it was more of a restaurant bar.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it wasn't like a boozy. You get the
No. So I just found. I never told you, I came back from Australia because while I was working on the 2nd farm, I had to sharpen some blades, and they didn't have any goggles. And 2 months later, I had to go to the hospital because my eye just went black and blue, and it was bloodshot red, and I couldn't open my eye, I couldn't blink or anything. And when I went to the hospital, they actually found rust in my eye from sharpening the blades a few months prior. and after they removed it, they said part of my sight might not ever come back, and that really scared me. You know, I was on my own and whatnot, so I felt like I needed to, you know, utilize the NHS and, you know, get a second opinion. So I got a flight back home, and I went to the hospital over here, and they actually found more rust in my eye. So I had
Was
to.
you in constant pain?
No, I didn't feel it after they removed it the first time, but it could have, you know, come back. So they removed the rest of the rust, and they basically said I have this condition in my eye called recurrent corneal erosion, and it's basically that shiny layer of your eye. It's what allows you to look at light, and mine would dry up and peel off because of the rust, and so I still have problems with that eye now. So, you know, I have to be very careful, because, you know, when you lose that sight, it's never coming back.
Moral of the story: when you're ever sharpening knives, wear your goggles. Was there just no goggles there?
No, I asked if they had goggles, and they said, "Oh, just sharpen it, you'll be alright."
Wow. So go on. You working in the bar?
Yeah, I worked in a bar, and then I absolutely hated it. You know, I was like, this isn't the life I want to live, and so I actually went back to my old gym at Virgin Active, and the general manager was the same. There wasn't really a fitness manager, so I just knocked on her office door, and, you know, I said, look, I was like, I hope I'm not being rude here, but, you know, is there any chance, you know, you have a job for me? And she said, if you came back, because I was training at this gym just as a member, and she said, if you had come back a year ago and asked for your job, I would have given it you, but she basically hired me on the spot.
Did she?
Yeah, so she goes, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I'd like to be a personal trainer this time. And so, yeah, she let me be a trainer, and yeah, my career sort of spoke for itself from there. I worked hard. It wasn't easy to begin with. Had to learn the ropes, and you know, I had experience working in a gym, but, you know, I needed to be an actual trainer, and it was very slow to begin with, and so I was living on roughly about £300 a month, which was a struggle. Luckily, my brother was in a good job, so he was supporting me, and yeah, when I was financially more stable, I paid him all back, and so.
Was it rent for? Was you renting?
No.
Was it not? So you work shifts?
I was on a 0-hour contract, so I didn't work any shifts, and I wasn't paid any money. It was all commission based on based on who you were.
How did you sort of market yourself then on the gym floor? How did you?
Just go around talking to people.
That's the key, innit?
You have to be a very people person to be in the personal training industry, and obviously traveling, and, you know, being from a young age, I just love being around people. You know, everyone's got a different story, and I like to hear, you know, no matter how similar someone's story is, there's always a twist, and so it's good to hear people's perspectives, because, you know, me and you could have lived the exact same life, but just because we look through it through different eyes, we're going to have a different perspective on how that life was lived, and so, you know, you can always learn something new from someone.
Yeah, beautiful point that. So are you still there now, working for?
No, I stayed there up until September just gone. So I've been there for a very, very long time, and I got promoted to manager, and, you know, I enjoyed it, and I was able to help all the people around me, and I was mentoring a lot of the trainers around me, and, you know, helping them build their businesses while being pretty successful myself. And you know, I just love helping people, so it was very fitting for me. And then the pandemic happened, and you know, we went into furlough. I didn't think too much of it. I thought I was bored with my time, and I'm not someone who can sit around, so I was like, you know, why don't I find a way to make a bit more money? And so I got a job at Amazon working night shifts in one of the warehouses.
Did you? Which
was absolutely brutal. I wouldn't recommend it. It you know what?
One near the airport?
No, it was a different one.
Right.
But you know what? It's a job, and fair play to anyone who can do that. You know, it's an absolute graft, and I made some good friends there, and, you know, the management was great, but the sheer physical labour is tough going.
Yeah.
And so
night shifts as well, so
yeah,
body clocks all over the place.
Absolutely ruined.
Eating habits, everything.
Yeah, I gained so much weight. Yeah. People are like, oh, you must be so lean from, you know, doing all that. I was walking between 20 and 40,000 steps a night.
Wow, That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's a good shift.
Yeah.
You're not sat on your. So why did the weight go? Is it just like, are you choosing the bad foods, or is it just?
I wasn't really eating.
What do you know? Is it stress on the body, do you think?
Oh yeah, so you're gonna find your cortisol levels are raised because you're not really designed to sleep in the daytime. My appetite was all over the place, so my hormones were clearly all over the place as well. I wasn't doing any weight training because I was so physically exhausted all the time. It just didn't suit my body at all.
Like you say, they are like we have had this whole like the whole hero thing. Like the people that are working like to get you don't realise what goes into them packages. Yeah. Like you don't stop and think that there's people working overnight to get them next day deliveries out, and you just what that must go through on the body is so tough, isn't it?
You appreciate delivery drivers and the people behind the scene a lot more working that, because it is tough.
You just think Amazon, you just think bedrolls, you just think it's just a beautiful business, don't you? But yeah, wow, that must be tough. So you still doing that now?
No. So I had to decide when the gyms reopened, because we were shut for such a long time in the first lockdown.
Yeah.
When the gyms reopened, I didn't think my business would suffer, but I went back to the gym and most of my wage was commission based, and a lot of my clients were afraid to come back to the gym because it was a fairly busy gym. Yeah. And people were afraid of people at the time. Yeah. And so I'd message all my clients like, hey, are we training? And I didn't stop to think people would be scared. And and I was like, wow, I can't live on the wage that I'm living, but I have to respect people are afraid.
Definitely, yeah. I think that's the case because you're similar to me, positive thinking, do you know what I mean? Obviously the bright side of things, but there is the people that will sit and watch the BBC News all day and like literally scared to go out of the house. So what was going through your head? I always like to ask this question when Boris comes on 26th of March last year, all gyms must close. What's your first thing Adam's thinking?
Well, at first I thought, how am I going to make any money? But and survive more than anything. And I guess we didn't know enough about what was going on in life for me to be affected. But I did think, I'm the sort of person who I'm not going to dwell on what might happen, but I will always take into consideration the potentials and possibilities. So, I respected the rules and I stayed at home. I did what I needed to do. And I kept in touch with my clients, just found out how they were. But I guess the very first lockdown, it was a luxury, It
was, yeah.
I've worked since I was 16 years old, and I've never had longer than, the holiday periods off work. I've never been out of work for longer than 2 weeks, really. And so it was a luxury, to say I had a full month off work and say...
The sun was out.
Yeah, exactly. So... I guess, as everyone else, I embraced it. Yeah, it was. When you think back to that first lockdown, it was like quite a nice time. I feel like it's now when everyone's like, come on, we've got to, do you know what I mean? Obviously the world's in a messy place at the minute, but I think it's getting to that stage now. It's like we need to get back to some sort of normality. Where are you working now then? I work self-employed now.
Yeah.
So I rent a gym studio in Hill Green. It's called CrossFit Train. Yeah. And if you're familiar with Samantha Briggs, who's one of the CrossFit World Champions, she's one of the owners, as far as I'm aware, of the gym.
Darren Freeman,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so Darren and a few of and so downstairs is CrossFit gym, and upstairs is there's a load of resistance machines and just a gym. And so they allow a certain amount of trainers to rent the gym facilities upstairs. And I'm one of those trainers.
Amazing. Yeah, they've smashed it, Train. I know Darren, and yeah, they've done really well for themselves.
It's a great gym.
Yeah, they when they got going, they knew which way they were taking it. Yeah. So how do you see your future of fitness maybe coming out of the pandemic? What's your thoughts on the way it's going to head?
I think sometimes we need to understand life will never be what it used to be. And so we need to understand that the normal that we think might come back won't be the same normal that we're going to get. So when people say, we need a bit of normality back, life as we knew it is never going to be the same again. So we have to embrace a new change, basically. And so what we're going to get is a completely new normal, and we might not know what that looks like currently, but we're never going to lose that sight of people thrive off other people. We bounce off people, and other people make each other feel good. And so it will take time, and people will be scared to begin with. And coronavirus isn't going anywhere. It's going to be here for a very long time. But what we can do is we can learn to live with it in a positive way, rather than we can say, I might die tomorrow, and not live our lives today. But one way or another, we are all going to pass away. And so would you rather know that you lived your life to the maximum, or that you didn't live it at all?
Such a good point. Such a nice way of putting it as well. Right, we've got about 10 minutes left, and I need to touch on this because this is how I found out about you and Clubhouse. You're blowing up on Clubhouse. What's your thoughts on it? Where do you think that's heading? What's the pros? What's the cons? It's a very new thing. It's still only on Apple at the minute, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Kanye West was in there and he crashed it. I know Zuckerberg was in there, he crashed it.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, Elon Musk has been in there. Yeah, I know Deadmau5 was in there before. It's blowing up. But yeah, so tell me what's your thoughts, because you are like, you've bossed it. You've nailed it.
I'm quite lucky. So my brother works for Spotify, so he's well in there with tech and the future of where technology is going. And so he came home for Christmas, and he was like, have you heard about this app Clubhouse? And I was like, no. And he was like, it's invite only. He goes, I've only got one invite. And I was like, invite me. He was like, no. He was like, he goes, literally, they'll kick you off if you're not utilizing it properly. And it's still quite early. And I was like, I promise you, I will utilize it the way it's supposed to be utilized. And he was like, there's certain morals and ethics you have to use when you're on it. And I was like, I'll do it. And so I begged him for the invite, and he gave it me. And so I abided by what he said. I'm quite a true and honest person.
So what's the rules then?
He was basically saying, don't troll in any rooms or anything, because he goes, anyone who you invite into the club, if they troll and get kicked off the app, so does the person who invited them.
Yeah. Your room is, I've seen your room go up to 600, 700?
Yeah, 600.
Yeah, I've seen it go up to 600. Have you had any trolling in there? Have you had any?
No, you know what? Everyone's very respectful in my rooms, and I try and limit how many people I let on stage, but at the same time I'm trying to give everyone a voice so that they can be heard. And so that's quite a hard balance to achieve. And I get a lot of messages on Instagram of people saying, I wanted to speak, but I couldn't get a word in, because people are speaking over me. There's not an order and stuff. So I'm still learning as well.
It's tough, isn't it? It's a brand new way of doing things. And we tested, I've got a friend over in Canada. Now he's going through a little bit of mental, not a breakdown, he's just struggling at the minute. And he had a really successful Instagram, and he called it Gym Talk. He'd go live at a certain time in Canada, and he'd get hundreds of people on there all chatting. He's had Gary Vaynerchuk on there. That's what made him blow up. So anyway, he's been going for that. I said, you need to get in Clubhouse. He's such a great talker. He talks about everything. Mental. He talks about everything. He talks about whatever's on his mind. So we did a test yesterday, and it's tough. You need to keep on top of everything, don't you?
Yeah.
You need to keep the conversation flowing. You need to try and keep the guests on. I feel like some of them rooms, especially the morning breakfast business stuff, it's a bit intense. I can see some of it. I think there's still a lot of testing to go down. I think I can see it's gonna be massive, isn't it? It's gonna be absolutely massive.
You've got Twitter, which is written words and people can share their opinions. You've got Instagram, which is all pictures. You've got YouTube, which is all videos. And now you've got Clubhouse, which is basically a live podcast, which is interactive. So you've got now voice communication. And there's just something about tones and, volumes and levels that people can connect with on a personal level, which you can't do on Instagram or Twitter.
Yeah. I think that's it, and it's getting to know, because already before we did this, I felt like I knew a bit about you. Do you know what I mean? So it's that connection it is that connection what's going to be the absolute magic of that. So if you're not on it, get on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, invite only still, is it?
It is until March, as far as I'm aware, and the app is going to go, it's going to be available to Android users in March, as far as I'm aware.
There we go, Nath. I've been trying to get Nathan on it, but yeah. Right, so tips for Clubhouse. What's your tips? Give us your little tips about before we wrap it up.
I'm just there to add value to people's lives. And so, you have to be a genuine person, and you have to genuinely care about helping others. And so I have no secret agenda. If I blow up just through giving value, then, I blow up. And if I don't, I don't. It's not my financial gain. I have been lucky to pick up the odd one or two clients here and there, but more than anything, these people just found that they connected with me on a personal level just through being able to speak with me. And so, all I'd say is if you're not genuine, you're not going to last very long on the app. And so, just try and find people who are very like-minded with yourself, and you're going to find your community.
Definitely, I think that's the really good advice for that. Where can people find out a little bit more about you, Adam?
You can find me on Instagram. It's _train coaching, or you can find me on Clubhouse under Adam Hameed, and I'm also available on Facebook under the same name.
Brilliant. Get on his Facebook, get on his Clubhouse room. It's fantastic. But yeah, I'll put all the links below. But thank you so much for coming over. That was brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Brilliant.